Scott Grayson is there right now. The mistake by the lake. He joins us now on the Boardwalk on the hotline as the Eagles are in Cleveland, and Scott Grayson is with them for preseason game number 3. Scott, what's going on, pal?
Living the dream here in Cleveland. It's just beautiful this time of year.
Well, there is a lot more optimism there. We know the Browns are attracting a lot of money through Vegas. People think this is a much improved team, but obviously the Eagles coming off that Super Bowl. And you were in New England last week, not the best effort, not the cleanest of games. Are you looking for them to step it up big time, or are you under the impression that, hey, it's preseason, they got a lot of guys out, just get through this thing healthy?
I think I'm a little bit in between both of those. I was certainly not pleased by what I saw out of the first-team offense last week. It has to get a lot better, from the line to just execution of some of the plays and Nick Foles hitting receivers, all of that. But, and that's what I guess I'm kind of looking for tonight. I don't really care if they win or lose this game, but I just need to see improvement out of that first team. Now, you can put the asterisk by it that, as I'm sure you guys have talked about, there's a lot of weapons missing from that first team that takes the field. But despite that, you just want to see some of the execution and the accuracy a little bit better, timing, all of that. It was Mike Wallace's first game last week, too. Let's see if he gets a catch this week or more. You're going to see the starters a lot more. So, again, I want to see how that first unit performs. I think defensively there also needs to be a little bit of more improvement there as well. But, no, it doesn't really matter if they win or lose this game. Surely you don't want to suffer any more injuries. Shocked that Nick Foles is playing. When I left New England last week, I thought, like I think a lot of people did, that we weren't going to see him anymore this preseason. But we'll see if he can avoid taking any hits or getting that shoulder strain affected anymore tonight.
Where are you with Nick Foles? Carson Wentz. Are you under the impression that he will not be ready for week 1, or do you think that that all signs are pointing to him getting ready to play and that Nick Foles is really preparing, just to be the backup?
I still think that Carson Wentz will not play in week 1. But if Nick Foles continues to look off like he did last week, perhaps Carson Wentz, if he continues to improve with his health, is ready. I just think that the benefit by sitting Carson Wentz in week 1 gives you an extra week and a half, because they play that Thursday, to be able to, let him have that extra week and a half to kind of come out even healthier in week 2. But, it continues to remain to be seen. Carson Wentz is checking all the boxes on his rehab and continues to surprise along the way. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out after another week. Obviously, you won't see him in the preseason, but I think some of that's on Foles to try to show that he's ready to take the reins for week 1 if and when we get there.
Scott Grayson will have Grayson's grades up tonight, and we'll recap them tomorrow here on 97.3 ESPN. But, Scott, tell us a couple of guys that you will be zoning in and have your eye on tonight.
Very similar to last week. I want to continue to see how that nickel spot continues to develop in that battle between Sidney Jones and Avonte Maddox. I think that Sidney Jones has the advantage on that right now, but look, you come out tonight, and I think you'll see both of them taking reps with the first team so that they're going up against the first team of Cleveland to really get a good evaluation on both of them. I think you'll also want to see some of that defensive line and how they continue to do. I'm interested to look at the offensive line and see if there's any progression there. And, of course, at running back, the battle between Smallwood and Matt Jones, which I think right now Smallwood has the advantage on. We'll see if Matt Jones can try to do anything to tip the scales in his favor based on his performance. But that's really a battle that nobody's emerged from grabbing the ball with both hands, if you will, and saying, this is my job, I'm taking it. So see if one of those two guys, Smallwood or Jones, does that tonight.
Yeah, Scott, just to elaborate more on that fourth running back spot, is it going to require a monster game from one of those guys tonight to win this spot? And how likely is it that the fourth running back is going to end up being someone that's not on the roster at all right now?
I think they'll go with I think they'll go with one of the two guys they got as opposed to somebody not on the roster. However, you never know who's going to get cut after that last week. And if somebody happens to show up that they kind of say, hey, we want that guy, let's go take a flyer on him, I wouldn't be surprised if they did. Does it need a monster performance tonight? No, I just think you need to see a productive performance. Look, you get anywhere from 3 to 4 yards per carry. You're going to move the chains ultimately, and I think that's what one of these two guys needs to do. And in Matt Jones' case, I mean, two balls coming off the face mask last week and bouncing into the hands of the opponent will not help you earn a job on any team. So, really grab the ball when it's there, make the plays, move the pile a little bit, just have your legs churning. I think that's what it takes. Hold on to the ball, don't fumble it, and one of these two guys should pull away. They're going to get a lot of opportunities tonight because of the guys who are not playing at running back. So there's going to be a lot of chances for both of them to really put something down tonight and see what happens.
Scott, Tim Jernigan isn't going to be ready for the opener, so it's looking like Haloti Ngata is going to start week 1. He started last week in preseason game number 2. It looks like he's going to start again tonight. We saw some good things from Ngata last week, so are you looking at Ngata again tonight to see if he can keep this going? He had a good play. He blew up last week. He got doubled a few times last week. So is tonight an important eye test for him to see if he can keep this going?
Yeah, I think so. Again, all these guys just want to continue to show a little bit of growth and consistency. And if you do those two things in this league, you're doing pretty well. And the way that Jim Schwartz likes to rotate in his defensive linemen, that's all he's got to do at Ngata. And if he does that, again, this week, and you're right, he's drawing some double teams, and if he can fight through that a little bit, it shows, again, that reliability and that ability to be able to rely on him come game time. Now, you mentioned that Jernigan's not ready. I know, obviously, they're continuing to watch Bruce Hector. He has continued to have a pretty good training camp and preseason, and we'll see if that continues tonight as well. I think they're really pretty good on the defensive line, and they've had some depth there, which helped last year. I think they're pretty good there in terms of depth this year. Derek Barnett, though, is a guy who I think has been pretty quiet this preseason. It'd be nice to see him kind of have a good game tonight too on the D-line.
How big of a game is this for Cleveland? Is it going to be nuts up there tonight? Obviously, we're going to recap with you tomorrow, but this is a big game for them. I mean, this is a team that went defeated last year, and the Super Bowl champs are coming into town, into your place. They're going to use this as massive motivation and positivity for their morale, I assume, right?
I would think so. You're talking about the quote-unquote dress rehearsal. You're going to see the starters in there through most likely the first half. And so it's really the first opportunity, the real opportunity for this team, as you said, which has a little bit more optimism than it's had in the past, to kind of come out and say, we're going to win some games this year, which obviously hasn't happened much in Cleveland. So certainly I think that there's going to be a lot of anticipation, a lot of excitement. It's a beautiful night in Cleveland. It's beautiful weather, just like it has been back there in New Jersey. And I think there will be a lot of excitement. I have never been here before. I'm looking forward to experiencing a little bit of what they've got here in Cleveland with the atmosphere. And, yeah, I'll let you know tomorrow if that excitement brewed, into halftime. But certainly you get the Super Bowl champs in town. You kind of want to have a good showing, and I think they're going to certainly try to do some of that. I was a little surprised, kind of going off of that Tom Brady played all the way through the first half last week, and it kind of felt like there was a little bit of animosity and unfinished business that he might have been lobbying for to take care of against the Eagles last week. So, yeah, that target on the back, the Super Bowl champs, I think all that plays in a little bit here, even in the preseason.
Scott Grayson in Cleveland with the Eagles. A lot of injuries, of course. Alshon Jeffrey has not played at all. Nelson Aguilar has not played at all. Scott Wentz, Aguilar, Alshon. Is there some concern that the Eagles' offense is going to have a little problem getting out of the gates and not having a night like tonight to kind of get a couple of reps under their belt?
Yeah, well, I'll say I'm concerned about some of that when you look at week one. I know you can only simulate so much in practice, and that timing, which you saw last week, I think it was more timing than anything else with between Foles and some of his receivers that were the cause for the inaccuracy. You don't have that timing down, it affects everything. And Wentz hasn't been out there with the live bullets in preseason. You haven't had these receivers dealing with, bump and runs from opponents that they're not used to going up to in practice and trying to get space and freedom and all the things that you need to have happen. I would not be shocked at all if there was some sort of a slow start coming out into week one. Now, that being said, this team surprised me last year with the way it was able to handle all its injuries a year ago. That was during the season after you've already had some of that. We'll see. But like I said, that's kind of the biggest thing I'm looking for out of Foles tonight is is there an improvement in the timing and the chemistry between him and his receivers? Certainly Wentz knows these guys. He's had some of that. He'll have that in practice. But I still think once you get out there in the live bullets, he's going to have that mental healing he's got to do with his knee and trusting it and being able to move around with it when he's got guys coming after him and want to do nothing but take him down. I think that's going to be very hard to simulate in practice and to learn from it. And, yeah, I'm concerned about that for sure.
You look at Dallas Goedert. I know everybody's always interested in the rookies and young guys. How do you anticipate him being implemented into the offense? Do you think he has a bigger role than a guy like Trey Burton had last year?
I think by the end of the year he will. I haven't seen enough of that yet to really go there, but I think that he's got the skill set and the ability to handle that. He's got a great, figure for the position. He is built a lot like Zach Ertz, and obviously he's got a great guy to learn from in Ertz. But it took Ertz a while to get to where Ertz is, and I think that Goddard will get there by the end of the season. He needs reps like this. This is going to be a huge opportunity tonight for him to continue his development, and he's one of the guys I likely will be looking for after the game to talk to as far as his progression and development has been going. Look, Doug Peterson loves to use the tight ends. We saw that last year. He loves throwing more than one of them out there on the field for what it does to a defense to have to defend it. And if Goddard can really develop into a weapon himself, it really affects everything on that offense even further. So they definitely are putting a lot of stock in him. I think he's got the ability to get there. But the question is, how much will they feed him at a time to not overwhelm him? And I think that's kind of something to look for tonight.
Sidney Jones, I know he was a guy, we were at the Super Bowl last year, Scott, talking about, about him, and he played the one game against Dallas in the finale. But now, it figured, okay, here's a guy that could have been a first-round pick, and he'll just step right in. Well, it seems that he's not going to beat Darby out, and they're not going to replace Mills. They could be putting him in the slot. So are you concerned that the drop-off from Patrick Robinson, even though Sidney Jones might be a more talented player, that this might not be his natural position, and that could be an issue?
A little bit. I was watching him closely last week. I thought his break on the ball from that position was pretty good. Of course, he had a couple of plays. Cordarrelle Patterson, certainly he'd love to have back. And so there's certainly more development that can happen there. And you got to remember, because he only did get into one game, wasn't practicing a whole lot, for him, the, quote, speed of the game is still basically like it is for every rookie that's in there. So he has a lot of room to grow. Obviously, his ceiling is very high, which is why the Eagles took him, even injured as he was last year. And I think they're looking for that development. Now, yes, Patrick Robinson, you talk about reasons why the Eagles got where they got. Robinson was one of them that was unknown. And we were talking a year ago about the question marks at that position. He filled them. And now we're still talking about the question marks there because he's gone. I think that Sidney Jones has a chance to get there. But I agree with you. I think his natural position is more on the outside. So he's got to deal with a lot more traffic on the inside. And I think that's some of what he's trying to develop more comfort with. So, again, I'll be watching him a little more closely tonight to see his break on the ball, how he reads some of those blocks that are coming after him in the middle of the field to try to free up some of those slot receivers. And I think that's an area where he can get better, and the question is whether or not he'll get comfortable there.
Okay, Grayson's grades. Check him out tonight at 97.3 ESPN.com. And, of course, Scott will be back tomorrow to give us a verbal assessment of the grades right here on the Sports Bash Live of the Boardwalk Honda Hotline on 97.3 ESPN. All right, Scott, enjoy Cleveland.
Oh, yeah, Cleveland rocks.